The voice of sharing during ASEAN.
That's right, Durian ASEAN, the voice of sharing and discovery. You're with Gowri this morning. We're back with the ASEAN news today, where I bring you fresh news from all the ASEAN countries. Before I start with the news, don't forget to like our Facebook page and also follow us on Twitter. All right, the first news that we have today is reported by the Bangkok Post. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations on Sunday urged Thailand to respect democratic principles and rule of law and enter into talks to end the political crisis. Foreign ministers attending an ASEAN summit in Myanmar made the call for dialogue in full respect of democratic principles and rule of law in a statement proposed by the Cambodian Minister Hun Sen. ASEAN member states continue to follow closely the recent developments in the Kingdom of Thailand and emphasize their full support for a peaceful solution to the ongoing challenge in the country through dialogue and in full respect of democratic principles and rule of law, the statement said. ASEAN member states expressed confidence in the resilience of the Thai nation to overcome present difficulties and stand ready to extend all appropriate support based on the principles provided in its charter, it added. So Hun Sen is a close political ally of fugitive former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra, whose sister was ousted as premier by the Constitutional Court on Wednesday. Southeast Asian leaders also said that they called for self-restraint and non-use of force in the South China Sea, where member states and China have sparred over disputed territorial claims. A joint declaration issued at the summit, hosted for the first time by Myanmar, called on all sides to refrain from taking actions that would further escalate tension and to work towards an early conclusion of the Code of Conduct in the South China Sea. The statement followed Vietnamese charges that Chinese boats rammed Vietnamese vessels and used water cannons against them last week in the South China Sea, and more recently erected an oil rig in disputed territorial waters. As we all know, the Chinese have been invading the Vietnam territorial waters by building an oil rig and guarding it with armed guards that the Vietnamese cannot do anything about it. There have been some protests in front of the Chinese embassy in Hanoi, but we have yet to hear anything from the Vietnamese officials, their government, so we'll have to wait and see how that one pans out. Let's move on to the Malaysian Insider, which reported that the hudud law in Malaysia can be applied to everyone, says an Islamic scholar. It is possible to enforce the hudud in Malaysia as the country is not secular and already applies aspects of Islamic criminal law in the penal code, an Islamic scholar said yesterday. Faculty of Sharia Law, Islamic Science, University of Malaya lecturer Zulkifli Hassan at a forum today that anti-hudud arguments such as Malaysia's secular and multiracial status were void as Islam was recognized as the official religion in Malaysia. He also said that the hudud could be made a part of the country's penal code, or a second penal code could be created to include hudud offenses such as adultery, premarital sex, alcohol consumption, and stealing. We can Islamize the penal code, he said, whether it is through amending the code or by creating a second one, Zulkifli said at a forum organized by the Angkatan Belia Islam Malaysia, ABIM. Hence, the hudud can be applied to all Malaysians, just like Islamic finance, which the government accepts because it is beneficial. And the hudud too, according to him, is beneficial because it brings peace to the country. He also said that while this required only a simple majority in the parliament, it would likely trigger opposition from the public, as the penal code would be enforced on all Malaysians, regardless of their faith. Legally, it is possible to implement the hudud any time, but we will face many issues and predicament in terms of prosecution. However, he said that this was no excuse not to enforce the hudud, as the government could take the initiative to educate the people on the Islamic criminal law. Let's move on to Manila now, reported by the Manila Bulletin. They are trying to abolish PEZA, which is actually the Philippines Economic Zone Authority, says KMU. A militant labor group is pushing for the abolition of the Philippines Economic Zone Authority for its anti-labor intervention in the ongoing labor dispute between the NXP Semiconductors and its workers in its plant in Laguna. Kilusang Mayo Uno, KMU, as Secretary General Roger Saluta demanded that PEZA's abolition during a demonstration in front of the PEZA's main office in Pasay City Monday. The labor strike, which started last week, stems from the supposed union busting by NXP management after it dismissed the 24 union leaders and deadlock in the collective bargaining agreement negotiations. The agency enforces policies that go against the country's labor laws, Saluta said. It did not conduct any investigation into the labor dispute in NXP, but automatically deployed police forces against the workers, proof that it is programmed to take the capitalist side in labor disputes, he added. President Redden Alcantara said he who was among 24 employees who were dismissed, defended the validity of the strike, in which the NXP management said was illegal. He said, "We were simply exercising our right to protest after the company refused to hike wages, regularize contractuals, and after it illegally dismissed union officials." Well, I have to agree with this guy on this one. The workers have the right to protest against the company if they're not happy with their wages, if they're not happy with the hours they're putting in, if they're not happy with the management or anything at all. And the company by right should have a discussion with the workers and not just dismiss their demonstration as illegal. Moving on to Singapore now, as reported by Yahoo News Singapore, 5 youth were charged with vandalism of the Toa Payoh HDB block. 5 17-year-olds have been charged for vandalism on Saturday for their suspected involvement in the rooftop graffiti case in Toa Payoh. According to the Singapore Police Force Facebook page, police were alerted to a report of graffiti being painted on a wall of the top block 85A, Lorong 4 Toa Payoh on Wednesday morning. Profanities against the police and the ruling People's Action Party (PAP) were discovered to have been painted in bright red paint on the rooftop. If convicted, these youth could be jailed for up to 3 years or be fined up to $2,000 and shall also be punished with at least 3 strokes of cane. So once again, this goes back to the freedom of expression. If these youth are up there spraying all these profanities, well, maybe they shouldn't have gone that far to spray profanities. But then again, they're merely expressing their feelings towards the People's Action Party and how they feel about it. And it shouldn't always be about the punishment. I think the police should pay some attention to why is this happening in the first place? What are these teenagers trying to tell? What are they trying to communicate? How are they feeling? How are the younger generation of the country feeling about the action party of the country? Moving on to Bloomberg now, we're going to Indonesia. Widodo gets Indonesia Islamic Party support after poll win. Jakarta Governor Joko Widodo won the support of the National Awakening Party, boosting his presidency bid by forming a coalition that captured more than a third of the vote in last month's parliamentary election. Widodo's Indonesian Democratic Party of Struggle, PDIP, won 18.95% of the April 9 parliamentary vote. The General Elections Commission said May 9. PDIP aims for a maximum 4-party coalition. Secretary General said May 10 the party sought backing from National Awakening or PKB following a deal with the National Democratic Party. The 3 parties won a combine of 34.71% of the ballot, passing the 25% threshold that needed to nominate a presidential candidate. A broad coalition could limit the ability of Widodo, known as Jokowi, to carry out policy changes in Southeast Asia's largest economy if he wins the elections in July. Indonesia should cut its deep dependence on foreign investments and imported food, Widodo said on May 10 in an opinion article published in Kompas newspaper. He also called for a mental revolution, saying that institutional reforms aren't enough as they don't address the way people think. Moving on to the Star Online, we're getting some local news here. Sex bloggers Alvin and Vivian, get passports released to shoot a documentary in Singapore. A sessions court here has granted controversial sex bloggers Alvin Tan and Vivian Lee application to have their passports released. The judge Abdul Rashid Daud made the order Monday after Tan and Lee's counsel Chong Ju Tian told the court that his clients needed to be in Singapore to shoot a documentary film on their life there. The judge also granted between May 18 and June 3rd to enable the couple, famously known as LVV, to go to the island republic for the purpose. However, he did instruct Tan and Lee not to make any press statement on their ongoing case here to the Singapore press. Chong interjected that and said that the documentary was about their real life in Singapore and has nothing to do with what's happening in Malaysia. And they're also limiting their shooting locations, which includes Orchard Road. On July 18 last year, Vivian and Alvin were charged under, they had 3 charges under the Film Censorship Act, Sedition Act, and the Penal Code. And one of the 3 charges, which was under Section 298A of the Penal Code, was struck out by the Court of Appeal on April 21st. The charges still stand for the duo for allegedly publishing a photograph with the comment "Selamat berbuka puasa dengan bakute wangi enak menyelerakan," which contained a halal logo and possibly seditious statements, and for also displaying pornographic images on their blog. The following news is about the Bukit Gelugor by-elections. Bukit Gelugor by-elections, Penang Front Party fails to join the fray. The newly formed Penang Front Party failed in its nomination bid to contest in the Gelugor by-election. The party was supposed to candidate Lim Chee Kun, 53, was 15 minutes late to hand in his form at the nomination center in Dewan Sri Penang on Monday. He also did not submit his deposit, which caused his nomination papers to be rejected as it did not fulfill their requirements. Those contesting are DAP's Ram Karpal Singh, Parti Cinta Malaysia Vice President Datuk Juan Cheng Guan, retiree Muhammad Nabi Books Muhammad Nabi Abdul Sattar, and lawyer Abu Bakar Siddiq Muhammad Zan, both independents. Lim, who is a former Gerakan member, was the personal assistant to former Pulau Tikus Assemblyman Datuk Teng Hock Nan. He dismissed claims that he would be looking forward to the Teluk Intan by-election. Right now, Penang Front Party, PFP, are focusing only on Penang, Lim said, adding that they would contest should there be another by-election in the state again. As we all know, the Bukit Gelugor parliamentary seat fell vacant following the death of incumbent Karpal Singh in a car accident on April 17. The final story for today, which is actually quite a tragedy. A law student actually committed suicide in Penang because she was too nervous to sit for her examinations. The headline reads, "I'm sorry for being useless. Law student's last message before falling to her death." The note, written in Mandarin, was found in a Perodua Viva belonging to the law student, Tiu Hui Theng, 21, who had earlier fallen to her death from the 18th floor of Menara UMNO in Macalister Road on Monday. Her car was parked beside the building in Jalan Zainal Abidin. Tiu, who was from Taman Mesra Permai, Butterworth, was supposed to sit for her exam at her college in the morning at Menara UMNO. And she's actually the youngest among 3 siblings in the family. The victim is believed to have fallen from the 18th floor corridor based on the locations where the items were found. We managed to inform the victim's family members, and we found that the victim was supposed to sit for an exam today, Monday, which was yesterday, but she refused to do so. We learned that her father had insisted that the victim sit for her examination, ACP Mio said in a statement. So this once again goes to show how in Malaysia, everything is so exam-based, is so exam-oriented that sitting for an exam can be so nerve-wracking that it can even drive someone to commit suicide. And then there's just also all this parental pressure and how they are always pushing the kids to get all A's, to get really good marks, or if you don't get all A's, you're gonna fail in life. You're gonna be such a failure. You're not gonna go anywhere, and they don't realize how much pressure this puts on their kids. And until something major like this happens. But according to a report here, it says that her family did not pressure her. The family had always advised her to calm down and not be too nervous. But then again, we don't know how true this is, because we Asians do have a reputation where our parents can be really, really strict. They can be tiger moms, tiger dads even, and they're always putting a lot of pressure on their kids in school. So I hope parents learn from this and explain to their kids that getting all A's in your exam doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to have a bright future. And you should have a good balance, actually, not just in school. You should be involved in sports. You should have some fun, go out with your friends, go for a movie. It's not just about studying all the time. All right, I think that's all the time that we have for today, and it's a public holiday, so I'd like to wish Happy Wesak Day to all our listeners on Durian ASEAN. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, Durian ASEAN. Follow us on Twitter, and if you don't have a computer nearby, you can always download our TuneIn app on your smartphone and look for Durian ASEAN. Follow us, and you'll be tuned. Next up, we have Blast from the Grassroots. I have a Penang-based writer to join me today to talk about her new play, Lentera Seni, which is coming up in a bit. Meanwhile, I'm going to play you some songs, so enjoy.